Oh yeah, this is spooky. This trail's really fast. Hey, Nick here with VanCan, and today I want to talk about, well, a comment I usually get, which is, wow, you're so lucky to live there. And there is here, which is Vancouver, BC. We have tons of great trails, and I'm really lucky to have them. But actually, I wasn't born here, and I think I just want to talk about that today. I actually moved over 2,000 kilometers just to come here. For the weather and for the riding. So let's talk about it. So why don't we start at the beginning? I'm actually from a small town in Ontario called Kenora, Ontario. It's actually really far north and really far west for Ontario, and it's really close to Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I did my undergrad. Now, I didn't really mountain bike while I was there. There wasn't that much mountain biking. I actually rode BMX, and that's what I've been doing for the last 13 years. Well, except for 2 years ago when I started mountain biking. Now, the story of how I started riding in Kenora, Ontario, and how it changed my life, definitely by far for the better. It's crazy to think about. That is a long story, and that's probably going to be its own video. And, basically I did my high school in Kenora, Ontario, and I moved to Winnipeg, Manitoba to do my undergrad, where I studied electrical engineering. And basically I just rode BMX, studied, and went to school. That was most of what I did for a really long time there. So when I finished my undergrad at the University of Manitoba, I really learned two things. Well, hopefully I learned a lot more things since I spent all that time at university. But I knew I didn't really want to get a regular job, and I knew I really hated winter. Winter in Winnipeg it's rough. And that's why I decided to apply to graduate school, which is kind of a job, but also not really a job. I can keep, living that student life. So I applied to go to school here, which is Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, BC. And luckily I got in, and I basically packed up all my stuff, left a lot of friends and family, and moved with my girlfriend over 2,000 kilometers way out west, all the way to the coast here, so we could basically get away from winter and I could do a lot more riding. So even in my hometown right now, it is minus 4 degrees Celsius. And here in Burnaby, it's plus 4 degrees Celsius. And I'm planning on going riding tonight. Not something I could do if I was still living in Winnipeg. Which is actually a great segue over to today's video sponsor. This video is brought to you by Gemini Lights. Light up the trail with their new insanely bright 4,000 lumen Titan and the 2,200 lumen Duo. Check their industry-leading lights out at the link in the description and use code VANCAN for 10% off your order. Alright, so we've made it to my office. But the crazy part is, when I was coming here a little over 2 years ago now, I didn't even own a mountain bike when I was planning to come here, and I didn't really think much about it. One of my good friends was a mountain biker, and he was like, oh, the trails are so good out there, you should just buy a mountain bike. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I pretty much like all types of biking. I'll buy one, and I'll go give it a shot. And it's crazy to think how much things have changed. I've gone from just being like a guy who bought a mountain bike, deciding to try it out, to I just mountain bike so much, and I make videos about mountain biking every week. It's pretty crazy. And while we're here, maybe we can answer another really common comment I get, which is, do I do YouTube full time? And the answer is, well, obviously no. I work here, I guess, as a graduate student. I don't take any classes anymore, so I'm not really doing the student side of things. I work as a teaching assistant, and I work as a research assistant. Basically, I'm writing my master's thesis, which, you know what, I'm going to tell you guys about, even though you're probably going to think it's super boring, but why not? I'm going to share it with you guys. So I just got back from Surrey Memorial Hospital, amazing hospital, and I was there doing testing for my project in the Image Tech laboratory. So I've got all this stuff I have to unpack, and well, I may as well show you guys while I unpack it. It's not biking related, and it's pretty nerdy, but you know what, like I said, I'm just going to show you anyway. So this is a big optics table where I keep all my optics, lasers and lenses and things like that. So the 10,000 foot view of the lab that I work in is we do a type of functional brain imaging called MEG, which is magnetoencephalography. Basically, your brain, when you think, when you're alive, it generates these tiny little currents, and as we know we've known this for a really long time now, When you have a little electric current, you have a magnetic field, and we can detect that with a big machine that we call an MEG. So the tricky part to finding those signals, those brain signals in your head, is that they're really, really small. The magnetic field produced by the Earth is about 50 microtesla. That's 0.000005 Tesla. And the signals in your brain are more than 1,000,000 times smaller than that. Now, where I come in as the engineering student is the hardware. And what I'm trying to do for my thesis is build a different kind of sensor that they don't currently use for MEG. And that's an optically pumped magnetometer, which sounds kind of fancy and complicated, but the gist of it is this. I take a laser, I take a cell that has some metal in it, specifically some rubidium, and I heat it up. I shine the laser through the cell, and then it hits the sensor. The amount of light that's absorbed by this cell tells me the information about the magnetic field, and the really good thing about this setup is, well, it can detect really, really small magnetic fields, like the ones in your head. So I know all this stuff is pretty boring and nerdy, but it all sort of comes together to explain why I moved here. The research, the school, the great weather, the great riding, it all sort of came together and convinced me to move with my girlfriend over 2,000 kilometers, which was pretty crazy for me at the time. And it's become even crazier, especially with the channel. It's not something I ever imagined I would do. So I guess right now we're gonna stop with the boring stuff. I have to go invigilate an exam, make sure these little rascal kids aren't cheating on their final, and you know what? We're gonna go do some trail riding, which is something that I couldn't do, like I said, if I lived at home. So, let's go to the trail. And here we are at Eagle Mountain in Coquitlam, BC. And sure enough, I mentioned how we can ride all year, and we hit snow. That meant we had to hike and bike a few sections, because this climb, even in the dry, well, kinda sucks. We finally made it up to the top of Manhandler, checked out the icy roll-in at the beginning, and decided to send it anyway.
Spooky.
Really wasn't too bad. So we continued down Manhandler in what seemed like icy, slippery, and dark conditions, but there was actually quite a bit of grip. And I had my Gemini Lights Titan 4000 lumen light on my bar, and the Gemini Lights Duo 2200 lumen up on the helmet. You can go check them out in the link in the description, and don't forget you can use code VanCan for 10% off. Now it's kind of funny, if you had showed me the trail beforehand and said this is what we were going to go ride, I probably would have stayed home. But I'm glad I didn't. Riding the trail at night and with all the snow on it, it looks bad, it looks slippery, maybe even looks a little dangerous, but it was super fun. There's something about getting out on a trail, especially at night, that's just so different. You ride a little different, the trail feels different. It's just a great experience. And this drop is a great example. In the summer, in the day, it's totally fine. But at night, covered in snow, well, it adds at least 2 more layers of difficulty, and once you're on it, you gotta go for it. Super fun though. And here's where things got really interesting. We made it to 3 Little Pigs, a flow trail, and, well, if you haven't gone as fast as you can in the snow at night, well, I highly recommend it. It's actually super fun and a pretty crazy feeling. And it's actually too bad it wasn't snowing. Going really fast through the snow at night kind of makes you feel like you're going warp speed in the Millennium Falcon. Okay, I know that's pretty nerdy, but you know it's true. Alright, thanks to everyone who watched, thanks to all my patrons, and thanks again to Gemini Lights for sponsoring this video. Go check them out in the link in the description, use code VanCan for 10% off, and it supports the channel. See you guys in the next one.